And this is yet again royal bloodlines, presidents, prime ministers, fake elected politicians. We're seeing more and more of them revealing themselves out in the open. We're even seeing it with the Pope out in the open, where people like Zelensky are giving demonic Antichrist portraits to somebody who's supposed to be the beacon of Christianity and a follower of Jesus Christ. They are revealing themselves as what they truly are, which are Luciferians, all of them. And a picture like this is just in plain sight. Just the revealing of this portrait of Prince/King Charles, that out in the open, most people with common sense could look at this and say, well, that looks pretty demonic. Is that supposed to be blood that's surrounding him? Is he in the pits of hell? Is he Satan himself? Well, let's start by breaking down the actual picture. Let's start with taking the picture itself and mirroring the picture, because a lot of times they do things with their duality, as above, so below, as well as their law of reversals. They do things like this knowing that right out in the open, you can actually see who they worship, right? So you take the picture of Charles and you mirror it on the opposite side. And again, if you don't know the law of reversals with Aleister Crowley, they believe in doing things backwards. So there is significance in mirroring the actual photo. And if you mirror the photo and you look right in the center of that photo, what does it look like? Can you see the Baphomet? Because I can. Look closely. Well, you don't really have to look closely. And if you actually look closer and you decolorize the picture and remove the color, you can see flat out the Baphomet right in the middle of that picture. You see the two eyes, the nose, you can see the horns, each going out on both sides, even in the forehead. You could see the torch. If you look at the picture of Baphomet, you'll see the torch between his horns. You can even see it in this picture right at the top. That is the eternal flame of intelligence shining between the horns. This is what Anton LaVey wrote. The flame of intelligence shining between his horns is the magic light of the universal balance, the image of the soul elevated above matter as the flame, whilst being tied to matter, shines above it. And I've broken down the symbol of the eternal flame before. We see the eternal flame on the Statue of Liberty. Obviously at the Olympics, the ceremony, people think it's just good fun that they run around with the torch. These are all pagan at their core, which again is Satanism at their core. So you can see the flame right in the top, in the middle, when these pictures are mirrored next to one another. If you even look close enough, when you go back and you colorize the picture, you can see that what looks like the nose, you can actually see an eyeball if you zoom in close enough. You actually see an eyeball in the picture. And again, what is he, a failed optometrist? The all-seeing eye of Lucifer that we see on the back of the dollar bill, that we see every single celebrity obsess over. That's why you can find a picture of pretty much every single famous celebrity doing a pose with a hand over one eye. This is referencing the Bible. In Zechariah chapter 11, verse 17, woe to the idle shepherd that leaveth the flock. The sword shall be upon his arm and upon his right eye. His arm shall be clean, dried up, and his right eye shall be utterly darkened. So we see the obsession with the eye. Now, if we look closer in this picture, it's very obvious that we could see a monarch butterfly. Now, to the sheeple out there, they'll look at this and they'll say, well, he's got a monarch there because it's a monarchy. It's not anything to do, with the transformation. Again, the monarch butterfly represents the transformation, as well as MK Ultra, which I'll get into in a second. But for those of you that don't know, the majority of things that they idolize, the symbols that they constantly show us, represent a transformation. And guess what? They're talking about the transformation of human beings, the mixing of iron and clay, transforming what it means to be a human. And that's kind of what ties into everything that's going on now with gene editing. Okay, so that's what the monarch butterfly symbolizes, but it also symbolizes and represents monarch programming, which is an offshoot of MK Ultra. The origins of monarch programming, as we all know, we see celebrity after celebrity after celebrity holding up butterflies over their eye or just wearing butterflies. We've even seen the Queen herself dressed up with butterflies all over her outfits, pictures of butterflies. Then the dumb sheeple out there think that this has something to do, of course, with they think that it literally has something to do with the fact that it's a monarchy. Yet they don't realize that every single celebrity out there, as well as doing all-seeing eye symbolism, can be seen with almost every single female celebrity. Well, they present themselves as female. Most of them actually aren't. but almost every single celebrity has an obsession with butterflies, not because they go in their backyard and love butterflies and see one and just want to draw it in a painting, not because they love the royal family. This, again, has to do with what's going on with monarch programming. And if you haven't noticed, it's been unleashed on the population. This used to be something that the CIA did and tested on the military. And then little by little, they tested it on civilians. Now we're seeing it on a mass scale. It is a massive mind control operation. And one of the programs in MK Ultra Monarch programming, one of the actual programs is Princess and Prince programming, where, if you don't know what that means, you've seen, probably a million shows that are directed towards children that get them obsessing over being a princess or being a prince or being a king, right? Every Lifetime movie now for adults has this same programming built into it, and nobody realizes why. And I believe a lot of this will have to do with the revealing of the Antichrist. Obviously, the monarch butterfly in the picture, along with, obviously, if you mirror it, you can see the Baphomet. For those of you that don't know, just a rundown on King Charles, is that King Charles was coronated king 6 months, 6 weeks, and 6 days after Queen Elizabeth's funeral, after we were told that it was a funeral. Again, we know that these people don't actually have real funerals. They transfer their souls into different vessels. There's all sorts of satanic rituals that are done. There's never really a funeral. That's just for the public out there. A lot of them select their own days when they leave the earth. We've seen King Charles, a lot of the scriptive stuff with him where he's been out in the open, where you can see crowns above his head and you can see the 6 color beams coming out of the crown with your 666. They always do. It's just a matter of the sheeple out there and how their minds are trained to operate. This could be shown right to him. He could literally have a 666 on his forehead in this picture. And people out there will say, he's just trolling, or that's not what that really is. They'll say it's wrinkles in his forehead because they're trained not to look and see signs and symbols. They're trained to be oblivious sheep, and that's how they operate. So people out there are already deflecting on this portrait, and they're like, it's not satanic, it's not the pits of hell, it's not blood, it's just the color red, right? Well, wouldn't it be the color purple? I mean, isn't that the royal color? Why would they choose red, right? Why would they choose that butterfly? Oh, right, it's red because, let me guess, red's his favorite color? Or what was the ridiculous excuse the painter came out and gave us? He said something along the lines of, it reflects his role as regimental colonel in the Welsh Guards. Oh, right. Hang on one second. I was just born yesterday, so I need to have my baby bottle because clearly they treat us like babies and infants. And that's because most people's minds function as infants, which is why they're so obsessed and dependent on their government to take care of them. That's how this entire design works. So they can come out and tell you stuff like that, and they can laugh at the excuses because they're so laughable, but there are people that obviously believe it, and we deal with these people on a day-in, day-out basis. But most people should see this and say, well, that is pretty weird. And most people should look at the butterfly and say, well, wait, monarchy, is that what the monarch butterfly represents? No, it doesn't. It actually represents a lot of different things, including the transformation and them being infinite. And of course, MK Ultra Project Monarch, which is a massive form of mind control, which is being done out in the open on everybody. So when you mirror that picture, you can see the Baphomet in the picture. There's no debating that. What people will debate is they'll say, well, why would you mirror the picture? It's just a single picture. Why would you do that anyway? Because they don't understand how these people operate. Well, they follow the teachings of Aleister Crowley, who talks about the left-hand path, the right-hand path, and talks about doing things in reverse, the law of reversals. They're taught to speak backwards. They're taught to do things backwards, hence the upside down narrative that we hear and see them using out in the open with things like Stranger Things so much now in today's world, right? Even things like the upside down Christmas tree, these things that I've covered that they're normalizing. It's an upside down world that we're living in. They do things and they mirror things, which is why you've probably seen and never thought much about why mirrors are so important in a lot of these films that are about demonic possession and witchcraft. You always see something coming through a mirror. You always see mirrors involved, but nobody realizes why and what the mirror represents to the occult and how they summon these spirits using things like mirrors. And mirrors is another term also used to represent altars in MK Ultra mind control programming.